Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. We're back with an in-game analysis of La Liga as Zinedine Zidane's men hosted Mendilibar's Eibar at the Estadio Alfredo Di Stefano. In a match where both sides showed good attacking play, Madrid came away 3-1 winners thanks to Kroos, Ramos and Marcelo, whilst Bigas netted for the visitors. And the XG shows that the match may have been closer than the scoreline suggests. But what tactics did Zidane employ? In this video, we take a look. Let's start with the formations. Real Madrid lined up in a 4-3-3 that looked like this. Eibar lined up in a 4-2-3-1, however, they were fluid with this formation during the match. Now, let's start with what Madrid did during the build-up. Madrid looked to play out short primarily, with the backline splitting fairly wide and the fullbacks pushing higher, whilst Casemiro was the reference point in the midfield. However, Eibar were fairly aggressive with the press, and in fact, they and Madrid ended up with a roughly similar passes per defensive action, 10.8 for Madrid compared to 10.2 for Eibar. Their 4-2-3-1 would quickly shift to more of a 4-4-2, making sure that the centre-backs and Casemiro were covered. Initially, this did force Madrid into long balls. But Madrid quickly shifted with some different alternatives, one of which was to drop Kroos to the left centre-back role in order to form the 3 versus 2 advantage and allowing Marcelo and Carvajal to push higher. That would also subsequently give Hazard the room to tuck infield, forcing Eibar's midfield deeper and opening up more space for Madrid's midfielders to get on the ball more easily. But alternatively, as Madrid have the natural 3 versus 2 advantage in midfield, one Eibar man on Casemiro and the other deeper to deal with Hazard, and Modric pushing higher up, meant that Kroos could often drop alongside Casemiro instead to form a double pivot and create the 2 versus 1 here, allowing them to develop the play more easily. But once they moved a bit higher, we saw one of the newer tactics that Zidane implemented during this match. Depending on the situation, both Marcelo and Carvajal could invert into the defensive midfield position. Carvajal in particular was keen to do this, and this shows in the number of touches he got, 48 in the first half. If we project that into the second half, he would have gotten the most touches for the team. Of course, this is just a rough measure though. Eibar's winger tended to follow Carvajal when he moved infield, whilst Modric pushed higher into the right half space. Once again, Hazard in central zones meant Eibar's pivots were cautious of following Modric out of position and leaving him unmarked. Instead, it was the fullback who often had to tuck in narrower, and this often freed Rodrigo to then receive the ball and now faces fullback 1 versus 1, which they managed at times. On the left, when Marcelo inverted, the function was often slightly different. As Hazard was already central, there was no need for Kroos to move higher into the half space at this stage. So instead, he would move wider, as he would have more space in these regions to get his head up and look for a pass. And generally, this left-hand side is where Madrid looked to play through higher up. When Hazard tucked in, Benzema often liked to pull out to the left-hand side, into the vacated space. Marcelo, of course, would look to support whoever was wide, and this often caused the Eibar team to shift across. This would then open up room to switch the play directly to Carvajal, which they managed to do at times. We see shades of the left-hand overload in the first goal. Hazard is much deeper in the central region, opening up space for Benzema to push out to the left. Benzema has the support of Marcelo, and though the defender gets a tackle in, it breaks to Kroos, who finishes expertly. However, Madrid's defensive choices were also interesting. They didn't engage in a full team press, being often happy to wait for Eibar to make an error in possession. When the Eibar centre-backs had the ball, however, they would push their full-backs fairly high, and Modric or Kroos would push up alongside Benzema to make it a 2 versus 2 here. This would often lead to Eibar clearing it long when the press worked. However, if the Eibar centre-backs maintained their composure, they could cause problems as they could play into the midfielder into the space which had just been vacated. To make matters worse, at times, Kroos and Modric had miscommunications where they both pushed higher up, leaving Casemiro isolated here. And Ramos often had to push up higher to compensate, so Madrid will need to improve this going forward. Ironically, this is what leads to Ramos' goal. Both Modric and Kroos are high and Casemiro is isolated. But Ramos pushes up and makes the interception just in time. And Benzema pulls in behind the high right back and leads the charge. Hazard makes the run behind the high left back and eventually assists the goal. Overall, Zidane's use of inverted fullbacks could be something he looks to do more regularly in the future. But what other tactics did you notice? Comment down below. And check out yesterday's analysis of Mallorca versus Barca linked at the end of this. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.